Recently, I made a seaside themed fireside set, and so I posted some pictures of this up on my Instagram. I'll leave a link to my Instagram below, so if you want to, you can go and have a look at those pictures. And I did a whole set, so a shovel, a brush, and a poker. And the client came to me and she wanted to have a seashell at the top as the finial of the poker. And so I was then trying to come up with some different designs for this seashell, and I ended up coming up with this sort of wraparound design. And a lot of people quite liked it on the Instagram post, so I wanted to do this video today to show, sort of do a bit of a tutorial on how to make this finial. When I was doing the initial prototyping, just in my head and thinking up of different ways to make a seashell, my original idea was just to fabricate one. And so obviously a seashell, it has a point on the end and then sort of layers as it spirals down, gradually getting wider and then tighter to create the actual sort of shape. And so I was thinking about different ways to do this, and my original idea was just to do discs and weld it all up. But then I was sort of thinking, no, I really, surely there's a way that I can forge this. And I remembered this coal rake that I made in a video a couple of months ago. And on the end of this is sort of this wraparound thing, which is a bit like a golf ball, really, but it's this wraparound spiraling, gradually getting tighter down to the bottom. So I was thinking, how can I change this so that it looks like a seashell? Okay, so this is now actually in the future for me, as I've finished making the seashell, which you are going to watch me make in a second. But I thought that I should just show you it so that you've got something visual that you can see, rather than me just trying to explain what I'm doing and you not really knowing what the outcome is actually going to look like. So this is what I'm going for. So it's one of those sort of shapes that when you originally look at it, it's a bit hard to work out how you've actually made it. And then you look at it a bit more closely and you can see at the top that there is a bend, and then it just spirals around the bar. And then at the other end, we have this sort of opening where the animal inside the shell, the snail, would actually be sort of going along the floor and coming out of the shell. I'm going to quickly show you the proportions of the taper and the shape of the taper that we have to draw out. Because obviously this was once a straight bar, so we have this taper on the end, which is then what gives us this variation in shape, as it's obviously quite wide at the bottom, and then we have it rounding up and getting smaller and smaller and smaller to the point. Here is the shape that we need to create. So when I started off forging this, I started on the end of the bar, spread this with a crossbeam to get that width, and then the end here I actually tend just to grind in rather than forging it. You can forge it with a curve-faced hammer and sort of upset in the end, and then obviously come back and planish it and then upset again. It takes a bit more time really compared with just going in there and grinding it out. Anyway, this then obviously is a reverse taper down to a point. So at about 4 inches from here, you can see on this one, it's obviously flat, still flat, still flat, still flat, and then about there, it begins to blend into a round bar, and then the round bar, of course, is tapering away all the way to the point. So at about this point here, it's around 5mm round, and then we have this steep taper back to the 12mm bar. And if we don't have that steep taper, then in sort of the nook there, you'll be able to see the beginnings of this taper. So it has to be quite steep so that we have that just plain 12mm bar coming out. So once we have this taper forged out, we then bend it right here, right where the taper is at its smallest, so that we make sure that the point on the end is going to be as small as it can be. We then forge weld that, and I do tend just to put a little dab of stick weld, some weld on the end to strengthen it up so that it doesn't crack and potentially be a weak point, as that is really going to be the weakest point as we're then wrapping this all around this bar. So the one key thing to wrapping it up is obviously there's an air gap in there, so you do have to be careful not to crush it, as if you crush it, it's very, very hard to then open it back out again. So you have to be careful when you're wrapping it up. And then the key point here is you can see that the top of this taper is touching there, but then the bottom of it is touching the bar. So there's sort of like a bit of a twist on this actual piece, So the way that I do that is obviously just quench it off into the water, get the water level to about there, and then pull it in with a pair of tongs. So I'm going to show you the process of making this piece now. I'm going to shut up as I've sort of explained everything that I'm going to do, so you can just watch me forge out this shell. So hopefully it's been a nice quick video today just to demonstrate how to make this shell, as it was something that when I actually came up with it originally I was really pleased with the design, as it's something that I've not really seen anybody else do, you know, this sort of wrap around and then trying to create the wrap around so it looks like a seashell. It was quite a challenge in the prototyping to get the proportions of the taper right, the length of the taper right, and then to actually wrap it up in a way that it sort of resembles a seashell. So they do make quite a nice handle, you know, for the end of a fire poker or something like that, and it is something a little bit different, you know, it's different to the animal heads, it's a bit more minimalistic, there's not much detail in it, but if it's one of those sort of designs where the more simple it is, in a way, the better it looks. As it's really, you know, it's a relatively simple thing, but if you have a clean taper and then a nice even wrap around, it sort of looks, I think, rather cool. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and have a bit of a better understanding about how I make these seashells, as now you've watched me make one in a bit more of a tutorial style video. And hopefully there's going to be a couple more videos, as I said before, about making those sort of sculptures in the rocks. I've got one planned to do a Jacob's sheep. They sort of have crazy horns, Jacob's sheep, sort of. They're not like spiraled up there all over the place. So it's going to be a bit more of an interesting animal head to do. And then same as the octopus, I'm going to put it into a rock. So you've got that video to look forward to, so please stick around.